Story 1 by Brady McCoy. The mountains in winter had always held a mysterious allure for me, and this time, I was determined to make my adventure unforgettable. Armed with the latest gear and a fearless spirit, I set off alone into the heart of the snow-covered wilderness. The air was crisp, and the sky was a brilliant blue, promising perfect conditions for my expedition. As I trekked deeper into the mountains, the world around me transformed into a winter wonderland. Pristine snowflakes danced from the sky, creating a sparkling tapestry on the ground. It was a breathtaking sight, but it wasn't long before I realized I was not alone. In the distance, I spotted a series of footprints in the snow, leading in the same direction I was headed. Intrigued, I followed them, my curiosity overriding any caution I might have had. The footprints were fresh, and they were made by a creature with enormous paws, unlike any animal I had ever encountered in the wild. As I ventured further, the landscape grew more surreal. Towering ice formations, like frozen sentinels, stood sentinel along my path, and the temperature seemed to plummet with each step. I pressed on, determined to discover the source of the mysterious tracks. Hours passed, and I began to feel a gnawing unease. The sun was sinking low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow. I knew I needed to find shelter before nightfall, but my obsession with the tracks had led me deeper into the wilderness, far from any sign of civilization. Just when I thought I might have to turn back, I stumbled upon a cave entrance half buried in the snow. Relief washed over me as I entered the dark cavern, the temperature inside considerably warmer than the biting cold outside. As I made my way deeper into the cave, I discovered something that sent shivers down my spine, an enormous, empty den, large enough to accommodate a creature of monstrous proportions. My heart raced as I realized that the tracks had led me to the lair of whatever creature had made them. I had no choice but to stay the night, for venturing out in the dark would be suicide. I gathered some wood from the cave's entrance and lit a fire, the flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the walls. As I settled in for the night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak and rustle in the cave seemed amplified, and my imagination ran wild with thoughts of the creature that called this place home. The hours dragged on, each minute feeling like an eternity, until I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. Suddenly, I was jolted awake by a thunderous roar that echoed through the cave. My heart raced as I scrambled to my feet, grabbing my flashlight and knife. The source of the sound became apparent as I shone my light towards the entrance. A massive, fur-covered creature with gleaming eyes was blocking my escape. It was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen, a blend of bear and wolf, with tusks that jutted from its massive jaws. The beast snarled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth, and I knew I was facing a dire wolf, a legendary creature said to inhabit these mountains. In a heartbeat, I realized that I was trespassing in its territory, and I had to find a way to escape. With a deep breath, I inched toward the cave's interior, hoping to avoid provoking the fearsome creature. But the dire wolf was relentless, advancing with bared fangs. I knew I had only one chance. I reached into my backpack and pulled out a flare, igniting it with trembling hands. The sudden burst of light startled the dire wolf, causing it to retreat momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, I dashed past the creature and out into the snowy wilderness. My heart pounded as I sprinted through the dark forest, the dire wolf's growls fading into the distance. I couldn't help but marvel at the thrilling adventure I had just survived. The mountains had proven to be a place of both beauty and danger, and I had come face to face with a creature straight from the pages of legend. As I finally made my way back to civilization, I couldn't help but reflect on the exhilarating experience. The mountains had tested my limits, and I had emerged from the ordeal with a newfound respect for the untamed wilderness and its secrets. It was an adventure I would never forget, a story I would recount for years to come, and a reminder that sometimes, the most exciting tales are the ones that unfold in the heart of nature's majesty. Story 2 by Peter Hurt. As I trudged through the snow-covered mountains, the bitter cold seeping into my bones, I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a grave mistake. The sun had dipped below the horizon hours ago, casting an eerie twilight over the desolate landscape. The forest around me was a tangle of skeletal trees, their branches groaning under the weight of snow, and the only sound that broke the silence was the crunch of my boots on the frozen ground. I had always been drawn to the solitude and beauty of the mountains, but this was different. I was on a solo expedition, attempting to conquer a peak that had eluded me for years. It was said to be treacherous in the best of conditions, and I had chosen the dead of winter to make my attempt, driven by a desire to prove myself as a true mountaineer. But now, as the darkness closed in around me, doubt gnawed at my resolve. I stopped to catch my breath and took a moment to admire the beauty of the snow-covered landscape. The moonlight cast an otherworldly glow on the mountains, and the stars above sparkled like diamonds in the clear, cold sky. It was a breathtaking sight, but it offered little comfort. I knew the dangers of the wilderness, especially in winter, and I had come prepared with all the necessary gear. Yet, as I looked around, a feeling of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. Pushing forward, I made my way deeper into the forest, following the trail I had meticulously mapped out. The path was narrow and winding, with sheer drops on one side and a wall of trees on the other. Each step was a struggle, as the snow was deep and soft, making progress slow and exhausting. My breath hung in the frigid air, a constant reminder of the hostile environment I had chosen to enter. As I climbed higher, the temperature dropped even further, and the wind howled through the trees like a banshee. I could feel the cold seeping through every layer of clothing, and my fingers grew numb despite my insulated gloves. I had to keep moving, keep my blood pumping to stave off frostbite. That's when I heard it, a faint, eerie whisper that seemed to emanate from the very trees around me. I stopped in my tracks, straining my ears to catch the words. It was as though the forest itself was trying to communicate with me, but the words were unintelligible, lost in the wind. Heart pounding, I continued forward, chalking it up to exhaustion and my overactive imagination. But as I climbed higher, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. It was as though 100 voices were all speaking at once, a cacophony of sound that echoed through the trees. I tried to dismiss it, to focus on my goal, but the fear was gnawing at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something was out there in the darkness, hidden among the trees. I quickened my pace, desperate to reach the safety of the summit. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I reached the clearing where the peak loomed overhead. The sight should have been a triumph, a moment of pure joy, but all I felt was a deep, bone-chilling dread. The moonlight cast eerie shadows on the snow, and the whispers had grown into a deafening roar, a maddening cacophony that threatened to drive me to the brink of madness. I stumbled toward the summit, my legs heavy and unresponsive, my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw it, a figure, shrouded in darkness, standing at the edge of the clearing. It was hunched and twisted, with eyes that glowed like burning coals. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The figure beckoned to me, its voice a guttural, inhuman sound that sent shivers down my spine. I knew I should turn and run, to retreat down the mountain and never look back, but something held me in place, a morbid curiosity that compelled me to step closer. As I drew near, the figure extended a gnarled hand, its fingers ending in sharp, talon-like claws. It was then that I realized the truth. The mountain was not just a place of beauty and solitude, it was also a place of darkness and danger, where ancient spirits roamed and whispered secrets that were better left undiscovered. With a surge of terror, I turned and fled down the mountain, my heart pounding in my chest, the whispers of the forest echoing in my ears. I knew I had escaped with my life, but I would never forget the chilling encounter on that desolate peak, a reminder that in the heart of winter, the mountains held secrets that could drive a person to the brink of madness. And as I descended, I couldn't help but wonder if the figure on the summit was a supernatural guardian of the mountain or something far more sinister, a creature that had watched over those treacherous slopes for centuries, waiting for foolish souls like me to wander into its domain.